Let's see, what time is it? Oh, it's time. I don't know. Let me call him.
Good looking guys.
Hey, Mike, how you doing?
Hey, Chuck. How's it going?
It's going really well. I thought we were going to start at 10 o'clock.
Well, what time is it?
It's 10 o'clock.
All right. Relax. Okay? It's 2020, Chuck. Don't you know you can get anywhere in a snap of a finger?
You can? Okay. Well, get here. Start snapping, Let's go. Let's do this.
Here goes nothing. Whew. Wow, beautiful. Oh, hey, buddy. Why the long face? Whew. I found you. Huh. A whole new world.
X equals negative b plus or minus radical b squared minus 4ac.
Hey! Dr. Math! Seriously? Sorry.
Live from San Pedro, it's the STEM Expo.
Hello, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Rolling Hills Prep and Renaissance School's first ever virtual STEM Expo.
It's such a pleasure to be here today, and we will not disappoint. Did you know, Mike, we have 16 STEM professionals from around the world and a few surprises.
Wow, 16. How did we pull that off?
It's 2020. Of course we pulled it off.
All right, so what can our viewers expect?
You can expect the works. You want to know about what STEM careers are all about?
We got it.
You want to know what the future holds in STEM?
We got it.
You want advice from STEM professionals?
We got it.
Yes, we do. Well, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our head of school, David Moore. David?
Welcome everyone to the annual STEM Expo and the first ever virtual STEM Expo at Rolling Hills Prep and Renaissance Schools. As fun as and enjoyable as this event may be, it's never been more important and crucial than at this time in our history. Never before have science, technology, engineering, and mathematics been so important and so innovative. As we speak, scientists, mathematicians, and innovators are tackling problems on the world level which have the capability of influencing all our lives and may one day soon get us back on campus. Careers in these areas are exploding, growing rapidly right along with the technology that surrounds them. There are STEM careers for our students that don't exist currently and may one day change the world. At RHP and Renaissance, we recognize the importance of being a STEM powerhouse, providing the opportunities for students to innovate through coursework, clubs, activities, statewide competitions, the IB program, future cities, and robotics, and more. We hope you enjoy the next hour or two to hear of innovations, insights, so much more. And special thanks especially to our 14 STEM professionals and 2 students who are giving up their time to spend with us and share their insights expertise, and experience. Now I'll turn it over to our own Devin Darling to present the next speaker. Take it away, Devin. Thank you.
In our first episode, Dr. Julian Desari, our high school chemistry teacher, will talk about how his favorite class in high school was chemistry, and how that led to his doctoral in environmental engineering. From refineries to nanotechnology, Dr. T is full of surprises.
Actually, in high school, my favorite subject, of course, was chemistry. And that's what I really wanted to, that's when I started kind of investigating. And by the end of high school, I had done some research and I found that, the best career path for me was one that allowed for me to do a lot of chemistry, but also to give me options rather than just focusing on maybe becoming a chemist who mostly would work in a lab or doing research. I just wanted to have variety of options and say, well, maybe, because I was so young that I really didn't know exactly where I would end. I just knew that I liked chemistry. But following an engineering path, I knew that I would have different options after I finished my studies to specialize in whatever I wanted. So I kind of wanted to have kind of a parachute there to say, well, maybe later I like environmental and then I'll focus on that. Or maybe I like the food industry, I'll focus on that. Or maybe I like nanotechnology, I'll focus on that. So by following engineering, it gave me that umbrella of options later on that I wouldn't have had if I just focused on just being a chemist.
And here to introduce our next speaker, Laurel Pollock.
Our second episode brings my brother, Walker Pollack, into the STEM Expo arena as he explains intricacies of building his own high-powered gaming computer.
The CPU is the brain of the business. Say we have an office. The CPU does all the work, but the CPU needs somewhere to work, and that's a desk. The brain, like the worker, uses a desk to use all his work, and that's the RAM. These two light bars kind of are RAM. Right. And the RAM kind of holds all the memory, all this stuff he's working on right now, at the moment, there. Mm-hmm. So I could have my English homework, my science homework, and my math homework on my desk. Mm-hmm. That means it's all on the RAM. So I could have Chrome, I could have a video game, and I could have a calculator open, all like on random access memory. Right. And then we have the storage is under here and right there. It's basically a filing cabinet where you put all the work that you're not working on right now.
And here to introduce our next speaker, Maria Hussein.
Energy and sustainability are the topics of concern for our next guest, Trevor Anderson. Trevor will tell us about how his biology degree turned into a science, business, and policy career affecting climate action plans in local governments in LA.
I recommend to anyone in the STEM field to stick to their passion. I think it came across pretty clear here that I'm very passionate about this work, and that I also got very lucky too that grad school helped me find this. That this is what everything solidified for me. I realized that others it might not be the same. Might not, maybe they'll find out earlier. Maybe it'll take later in life to find out what they want to do for a living. But whether it's in STEM or not, hopefully, since this is STEM targeted audience, that if you are, find your passion and stick to it.
Here to introduce our next speaker, Sky Wesley.
We all know that science can be fun, but can a neuroscientist tell a good joke? If you ask our next guest, Shannon Odell, the answer is definitely yes.
Really having a hard time with my chemistry courses, and I thought, oh no, maybe I'm not cut out for this. And that's kind of when I took a moment and tried to think about what I really loved about science and what I wanted to do. And I figured out, okay, maybe I don't want to go a medical school track. What I actually really love doing is being in the lab and doing experiments. And even if I'm struggling in a course, that doesn't mean that I can't do that for a career. And I continued on, and then I moved to the city. After graduating, I graduated with a biology degree, and I joined a lab working as a lab tech. I wanted to make sure I really liked working in a lab before deciding to pursue a PhD program.
Cool.
Because a PhD program is 5.5 to 6 years long. So you want to really know that you want to do it before you enter in.
Mm-hmm.
So I took a job and I worked in a lab for 2 years, and I decided, I still really like science. I was in a neuroscience lab, and I started to really love neuroscience. And so I decided to apply to PhD programs.
And here to introduce our next speaker, I'm Leah Gostesian.
Hawaiian culture is mixed with middle school science as Lawai Govea explores how his background is an important aspect of his teaching.
I got into, as I alluded to earlier, I was a biology major there. So I had a friend there. Funny story, when I was there, my junior year, and he was from Omaha, and then he was dating a physics major. So I was getting ready to graduate and everything like that. And he and I used to study. He was going for med school. And then, so anyway, so he was, we were both bio majors, and he was dating a physics major. But it didn't work out, their relationship, because it didn't have chemistry. So I decided to go ahead and look into chemistry as well.
Hey, hon, what do baby parabolas drink?
Quadratic formula.
Why is the mushroom always invited to parties? Because he's a fun guy.
Never trust an atom. They make up everything.
Why does a burger have more energy than a steak? Well, that's because a burger is in its ground state.
Did you hear the one about hearing loss?
So a neutron walks into a bar and asks for a drink. And the barman brings the drink, and when the neutron is about to pay, the barman says, no, for you, no charge.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, for real, that's crazy.
Who are you talking to?
Pi?
Oh, yeah, he goes on forever.
Here to introduce our next speaker is Walker Pollack.
For episode 6, Mike Cavallero is an entomologist discussing caddisflies, trout, and even bugs as food. His educational journey proves why being persistent pays off.
When I kind of entered academia or entered my college career, I knew that I wanted to work outside. I've always been a naturalist at heart. Like I said earlier, I'm an Eagle Scout. I was outside all the time, camping, flipping over rocks, jumping into swamps, all that good stuff. So when I entered school, I was like overwhelmed with either, looking at whether it's botany or ornithology, study of plants, study of birds, mammalogy, study of mammals, looking at all these different ologies that I could be. And I was really fortunate as an undergrad student to have my entomology professor as my main advisor. And he taught me how to think like a bug, essentially. And he kind of took me under his wing, showed me different career paths, gave me the roadmap to kind of success as an entomologist, introduced me to a lot of the other faculty that had worked with insects before. And this kind of laid the groundwork for me to kind of seriously look at what paths were ahead of me and which ones I could take, and which ones would make me happy.
Here to introduce our next guest, Hunter Tan.
Our own Spencer Rogers talks about how he grew up doing projects, living on a boat, and more surprises. His educational aspirations started in marine biology, moved to astrophysics, which developed into computer science with a final outcome of electronic engineering degree.
And
while I was doing that, I had made friends with some computer science guys. And one of them convinced me to build a desktop because he wanted to play video games with me. And I didn't have a computer that could play video games. So he convinced me to build a desktop. We convinced my parents that I needed it so that I could run simulations for my astrophysics classes, but
of course,
we weren't anything like that at that point.
That's what Walker said to me.
What?
That's what Walker said to me. Wait a minute.
Here to introduce our next guest, Devin Darley.
For a twin experience, Tim Sherman describes how his early love of video games directed his current focus in the gaming industry. Tim will talk about the mobile games market, Fortnite, and even the future of mobile games industry.
What's really impacted the industry is things like PUBG, so which is and then Fortnite. These two games that are very teenager centric. Teenagers being at home and not having to go to school, those engagement levels have just spiked dramatically. So it really depends on who your target audience is. For people who are, say, 30 plus, who potentially have, they have to figure out their life. They still have to go to work, or if they're out of work, that's a difficult situation. They've got other things to worry about other than mobile games. But for a typical 15-year-old who just loves the fact that they don't have to go to school and can sit and play video games all day, they're not going to play our game. They're going to play Fortnite or anything else like that. So we haven't been
playing more
disrupted by
Fortnite than I've ever played before.
And here to introduce our next speaker, Laurel Pollock.
In episode 9, Tom Lucht is our T-Mobile connection. Tom will talk about his educational journey from an early interest in computers to a technology strategist. The discussion continues into the future of mobile technologies and the current development of 6G network.
And you know how you always hear this term, like, do what you love. That's like, great. I love, eating ice cream and playing video games, so I want to do that. But that can't really do that, right? But I think a realistic interpretation of that is the kind of activities you enjoy. Like when you have a job, usually you have responsibilities that you don't really like doing, but you can do, and you can do a good job and you do it. But then there's the stuff that you like, and you might find yourself working till late at night doing that stuff because that's the kind of stuff that is fun for you.
Yeah.
So if you can find a job that has a decent amount of overlap with the stuff that is fun and enjoyable for you, then you're in a good spot. So like I said, I sort of tried to chase doing something that I thought would be more highly paid or more valuable or more prestigious, but it just didn't line up well with my own personal enjoyment and capabilities. So I moved to a different area, doing more kind of less pie in the sky idea creation and more near-term operational work. And I ended up being asked to join this technology group about 9 years ago, and that's gone really well. And when I came over, they gave me a team of like 4 people. Now my team has like 30 people.
And here to introduce our next speaker, Skylar Wesley.
Did you ever wonder about the inner workings of Disney? Laura Barnes throws open the doors to this creative company through her discussion of innovation, Imagineering, levitation, animatronics, and much more.
So the other bit of advice that I would give people starting off is that is to not be dissuaded if you go to an engineering class and people don't look like you. I was one of 10 girls out of a 200-person engineering class in college, and never mind a person of color as well. So there are awesome organizations like Society of Women Engineers. There's NSBE, the Society for Black Engineers. There are all kinds of outreach groups, so you never have to feel alone if you feel like you're not being represented. So I highly encourage you to pursue it if it's an interest of yours, despite what your idea of what an engineer looks like, whether that matches up with how you see yourself.
What was your inspiration for creating the video? Because I really use it for helping me solve the quadratic equations, and it really helped me. Thank you.
Great question, Maria. And the reason is so people like you will learn the quadratic formula and never, ever forget it.
Hello, Dr. Math. I got a question. What do you think is the best way to remember all the derivative formulas?
Exponential derivative, e to the x. It's simple to remember. It's not that complex. It's e to the x. No change occurs. You can take that to the bank. I'll give you my word. Now, if you want the rest, see Mrs. Blanchett, because when it comes to calculus, she is the best.
And here to introduce our next speaker, I'm Leah Gostesian.
Donald Lopez talks to us in episode 10, explaining what a systems integrator in aerospace does. He believes in the importance of collaboration and discusses the impact COVID-19 has had on the industry.
No, but I think that was one of the experiences that I think was very important for me in seeing that it's engineering functions and jobs require a lot of social interaction with other people, other experiences, other functions, because even within our company, if you're a mechanical engineer, you could go into flammability, you can go into certification, into stress engineering, you could do design. So any one of those is available to you as a mechanical engineer. And if you focus on one of those, you still have to interact with the others. So I think that was one of the key experiences that I really saw helped a lot to mold my career.
Here to introduce our next speaker is Maria Hussein.
I would like to introduce one of the most intelligent people I know. She is highly regarded in the field of computer science, and today she will talk about the advantages of computer science career. It's my absolute honor to welcome my mom.
I think, just if you see how technology has taken over our lives, like even if you look 20 years ago, we all didn't have cell phones, or we didn't have these smart devices which we were carrying. And now we can't imagine being anywhere without a smartphone.
Sure.
Yeah. And I think that kind of immersion of technology is now going to happen in our homes. So you're going to start having very smart homes, very smart cars. And this is just as it has transformed our lives in terms of how we went from having a stack of maps in our car, which we had to refer to, where now we just speak out an address and we know the direction, we get rerouted with traffic and all of that. That kind of transformation is going to happen in our homes and even more so in the way we travel from point A to point B.
Here to introduce our next speaker, Walker Pollack.
If you are a gamer, you may want to listen to Dan Sherman. He is the CEO of Game Club, a new way to play classic games on mobile phones.
So for kids that are interested in breaking into the game industry, first I would say it's a great time to do that. It always has been a great time. It's because it's an industry that is constantly expanding. So there's lots and lots of jobs. And there are a lot of roles that are highly in demand. Like even during recessions or pandemics, the game industry grows, right? We as an industry are growing. Game Club is growing rapidly, so are a lot of game companies. So we really don't slow down much as an industry. And the need for talent, especially young talent, is there. So I would say to young people who are interested in this industry, probably they're already playing a lot of games. So do they really need to be playing more? Not necessarily, but I would encourage them to take every opportunity they can to read up on how games are made, how games are marketed. Take every possible opportunity. This is the most important thing, to find a way to break in.
Here to introduce our next guest, Hunter Tan.
Mr. Daniel Weissoff is a cyber defense expert who talks about how all of his passions have led to his current position and how important it is for us all to be aware of what makes us whole.
There is a well-developed curriculum for people interested in pursuing a career in information security. There are certificates that you can take courses on to earn that will look good on resumes. There are skills and challenges that you can participate in. There are games, regularly organized capture the flag games, where attackers and defenders compete against each other in a lab environment. There are puzzles where you're given a big stack of data and someone says, okay, find out how the attackers got in and what they stole. And these things are all available free online. You just got to, it helps to know somebody who can direct you towards these resources and who you can talk to when you have questions about it.
Here to introduce our next guest, Devin Darley.
Our next expert is Dr. Jason Douglas, an assistant professor of public health at Chapman University. Dr. Douglas will share his expertise on the impacts of COVID-19.
Phase 2 of our project is to fold in other cities. Really, we're going to move into a comparison with Los Angeles City. For a number of different reasons. For example, Los Angeles, very much like New York City, is a large, ethnoculturally diverse city with a range of different resources. Yet, in contrast, it's very different in terms of population density. That is the number of people per square mile. It's also very different in terms of public transportation accessibility.
And here to introduce our final speaker, Amalia Goshtikin.
RHP's own Naomi Scott, class of 2023, is here to tell us about her experience in marine science. Specifically, she will address her work with the Teen Climate Control, volunteer work at aquariums, and her water conservation curriculum.
So, like I said, water conservation can actually be super easy, from turning off the water while you're brushing your teeth to a 3 to 5 minute shower. Another thing you can do, which a lot of people actually don't know about, is you can water your plants early in the morning before the heat, or late at night after the sun goes down. Because if you water your plants when the sun isn't out, the sun won't be there to evaporate the water. So you end up using less water. And then especially during the pandemic, we've all been washing our hands a lot. So turning off the water while soaping up your hands and turning it back on to rinse. Or what my family has been doing a lot recently is, because we're using a lot more dishes now that we're home, we've been hand washing them and putting them in the dishwasher every couple of days rather than every day. So you can continue to put utensils in the dishwasher, but try rinsing the dish, turning off the water, soaping it up, and then rinsing again. Hand washing can save a lot of water, especially if you're turning off the water while you're soaping up the dish.
And back to our host for some final thoughts.
Thank you for joining us today.
Wow. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us for our very first STEM Expo. It's been such a pleasure. And starting right now, you can watch all 16 of our STEM interviews in their entirety. You will see 14 wonderful STEM professionals and 2 of our amazing students. And if you haven't already, like and subscribe to this channel, and go Huskies!